All right, so first thing you're gonna do is take your air cleaner cover off, pull your air cleaner, and then your backing plate. Since the float bowl is on tight, I'll go ahead and use a 5/8 wrench and loosen up the stock float needle, seat, and inlet tube. And then a small flat blade driver. There's 4 screws on the bottom of these S&S carbs. There's 3 that are all the same length. And the one that goes through the accelerator pump cover is a long one. That one is at the bottom and to the back here. The back one is just back behind the float bowl here. Sometimes it's a little hard to find, but you can put your finger back there and feel it. This is your long screw. Then we have 3 short ones that are the same size. Drop that out. This is a brand new carb, so the float bowl is just gonna come right off because everything's new. Couple key things to consider here is this O-ring is critical. It's accelerator pump nozzle O-ring. You gotta make sure that's in there. We also have our float bowl gasket. Since it's hanging up in there, I'm just gonna leave it in there. This is your float, and what we're gonna be replacing is this piece here that also doubles as the needle seat too. So I'm gonna show you how to double check everything. So we're gonna go ahead and take this guy all the way off. This is the stock S&S fuel seat. You can see that our filter is going to replace this exactly. When you get our filter, it's going to have the O-rings and the 10 micron stainless steel filter inside. Take it apart, set these two aside. You'll notice on the bottom that there is a square notch here, and that is specifically sized to fit any 3/8 ratchet, and it pops in like that, and that'll allow us to screw it into the base of the float bowl. So technically, could you have left your float bowl on and just screwed this in? Absolutely. But the reason why I like to take it apart is because we've got our float and we've got our needle seat still hanging on there. And I want to make sure that when you go to install this, that your float needle goes right into there and doesn't bind up. Tighten it up till it seats. There is an O-ring in there, so it's going to squish a little. What you do to check a float height on an S&S is keep your float bowl level and then lightly press on the bottom on your needle side till it seats in the valve. And then you want to measure the distance from your float bowl gasket surface to the top of this, and S&S specifies 1/8 of an inch to 3/16. To adjust your float height, you bend, they call it a float tang, you bend your tang up or down to get the right measurement, and then what you're going to do is measure from the top of your float to the top of this surface here. S&S says 1/8 to 3/16, just a rule of thumb. As long as it's parallel with the top surface, it works great. And then we're ready to reinstall the float bowl. Make sure that your blue accelerator pump nozzle O-ring is in place and your float bowl is in place, and then you just gently sort of slip everything together. Okay, once she's in, I like to use the small screws in the front just to get it so that it's seated. Okay, once you get at least one screw in there, get your other guy in. I like to get them all just kind of finger tight, make sure there's no binding as you're going together. This last one, the one in the back, is kind of difficult, so I will take and put it on my screwdriver and just hold it until I find the hole, and then just kind of push it in there and then start screwing it in. Once you got all the screws in, I just go around and start snugging up the screws in a crisscross pattern. This is aluminum bowl, tighten everything evenly. All right, so we got our filter half installed, we've got our float height adjusted, and now our float bowl is back in place and tight. This next step is not 100% necessary, but I like to take a little bit of lube and just run it around the O-ring. It's a dry O-ring. This just makes assembly a little bit easier. And then what we're gonna do is take our float half, take our 10 micron filter. Now there's a little lip in there for that to fit in. So when you go to screw this on, if you go to screw it on and it doesn't want to seat all the way, it's because this has come out of the lip. You just give it a little bit of a shake and it'll go right on. So once we've got that squared up in the seat, we just take and screw this guy all the way shut, nice and tight like that, and we're installed. Okay, last little tip as you guys are putting your air filter backing plate on. The screws that hold the filter on have been known on all carbs to come loose and get sucked into your intake. So make sure you always put a good dosing of blue Loctite on these guys and snug them up evenly and let them sit up before you go taking off down the road to make sure they don't vibrate out and get sucked into your intake. It's bad news. Alright, so there you have it. Our fuel filter is a super easy install. If you're interested in this or any of our other products, get over to grimpartsco.com, check it out, and get yourself one.
Oh yes.
That's like that, yeah, the pan glide thing. That's fucking, why would you spend all that money when you can just use...
You can just use that as a dolly.